We're so excited for our strategic partnership with the American Marketing Association. CMI and AMA have partnered together with a certified course that is our Content Marketing University to become a certified content marketing leader.
I'm super excited about it for what it means for the growth of our profession, for what it means for creating the proper framework for our content marketers to grow and excel. Having certification, having a body of knowledge, having both best and emerging practices, it's really what helps to define a profession.
We couldn't be more excited to be partnering with such a wonderful organization because they're providing the true standard of excellence when it comes to certification in marketing.
And having the opportunity to take the depth of research, knowledge, and practical skill that comes from the Content Marketing Institute content, combined with the proven approaches, the robust community and leadership that comes from the AMA, I think it's a perfect combination.
If you're a marketing practitioner and you want to upskill your way into becoming a certified content marketing leader, well, then Content Marketing University is for you.
Hello, hello. Happy Monday, everyone. It's Amanda with the Content Marketing Institute. Thank you for joining me for this Ask the CM World Community Livestream, where each time we dive into a new topic with an awesome member of our CM World community. And today we will be talking to the one and only Jay Baer about the need for speed when it comes to your customer service and just how much that can impact your revenue. That might be a little surprise to some of you. So I'm super excited about that today. So this live stream is brought to you by the Content Marketing Institute. We are the leading training and education organization for, you guessed it, all things content marketing. So you can head over to contentmarketinginstitute.com for all kinds of resources and educational content. In fact, we just released our 14th annual B2B content marketing research. Been doing this for 14 years. We have some really great insights in there about how marketers are using generative AI and all other great insights. So you can check that out at contentmarketinginstitute.com. And I also want to mention, if you didn't just see it, some exciting news here at CMI. We are partnering with the American Marketing Association to offer marketers a brand new content marketing certification opportunity. And it is part of our extended version of our 2024 Content Marketing University. The online curriculum is taught by the one and only Chief Strategy Advisor, Robert Rose. Marketers get like 15 hours of learning that prepares them for the AMA Content Marketing exam. Once they pass that exam, they can earn the Professional Certified Marketer credential in content marketing. So if you want to learn more about that or register, head on over to cmi.media/certification to learn more. So we are so excited about our partnership with the AMA. All right. If you join me every week, you know the drill. Please give me a virtual wave. Say hello. Let me know where you are joining us from. I see some of you already checking in, including Andy. Thank you so much. So let's get the ball rolling here. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to drop them in the comment section. It always makes for a more engaging live stream when we hear from all of you. So here is our question of the day. So how do you feel when a business responds to you faster than you anticipated? I know how I feel. So is responsiveness a priority in your customer service? If so, what are some ways you are exceeding customer expectations with your speedy responses? Do you sort of have like a mission when it comes to that? Like what's your strategy when it comes to answering your customers? So we love to hear from you. I think Andy said, she's a zero inbox person. I don't know how you people do that. So she tries to respond as quickly as possible. I love it when I get a quick reply from a company. I like to take care of things when I'm thinking about them. I have to pop this off so I can finish reading it. If a company waits too long to respond, I am usually on to other things as well. So yes, I know it's like I don't know, you're like, oh my gosh, they responded to me. For some reason, we're always thinking they're not going to respond, I think, quickly. So let us know what you are doing. Did you know that 66% of customers say speed is as important to them as price when making a buying decision? Responsiveness has always been an important, but it's now important than ever. It's the biggest competitive advantage you can have. So today we're going to talk about how increasing your responsiveness can increase your revenue. And today's chat is based on, I have it on my Kindle here, a new book by the one and only Jay Baer, a good friend of ours here at CMI. And if you didn't know, he's the customer service and marketing expert. He has written 6 best-selling books. He's consulted for more than 700 brands, like Nike, IBM, United Nations. And when he's not doing all of that, he's also a tequila influencer. Jay, is there anything that you do not do?
There's a lot of things I don't do, including workout, eat vegetables. There's a lot of things I don't do. But for purposes of this conversation, I do everything.
Awesome. Before we get started, I'd like to point out that this is possibly the shortest, most impactful marketing book. You can't see it because I have it on a Kindle, but it's a mini book, as you call it. There you go. So I love that you're giving me so much info and also giving me my time back.
Well, here's the thing, Amanda, and thanks for having me. Hey, everybody. I started writing this book, and as you mentioned in the kind introduction, I've written 7 prior business books that are, full length kind of, chunky hardcover books. And so I started to write this one, and I got into it. I was like, wait a minute. I can't make people spend 5 or 6 hours to read a book about the power of speed. This is the opposite of the advice that I'm trying to give you. So I'm like, well, what if I just wrote the smallest book I could, and you can read it in under an hour, and many people have, and the reviews are astonishingly good for the book. Look, the reality is, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, most people don't read business books. they skim them, and that's fine, because most business books say a thesis and then repeat that thesis multiple times until the book concludes. And I know personally that publishers are always like, hey, the book's got to be 200 pages because it's got to have enough width on the shelf at Barnes & Noble. I'm like, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to write a book that you can get everything that you need in an hour. And so I have. And it's also only $9. So I'm also saving you money at the same time. Go find it on Amazon.
Yes. And we'll get into it, but it's very impactful for how short it is. So you've been investigating speed as a competitive differentiator for years. You talked about it in several of your other books. So why do you think it's even more important now?
I didn't know initially that was the case, Amanda, but as I always do with all my projects, I always validate it with research before I write the book or write the keynote presentation. So my hypothesis was, coming out of the pandemic, that we all have now a different relationship with our time and how we spend it. And so I started to read all these articles in business, things like the Great Resignation and quiet quitting, and people not wanting to come back to the office. They just want to work from home because they don't want to commute, and bleisure travel, which you may have experienced a little bit at the most recent CM World. Bleisure travel is when you combine business and leisure travel. You bring your kids to the conference, you can double dip the trip. That's a new trend. Baseball games are 26 minutes a night shorter now because of the pitch clock. I was like, you know what? All these trends are the same trend, which is that we care about our time and how we spend it more than ever. So I conducted a huge research project on this notion. It's really the most comprehensive research ever done in this country on the relationship between responsiveness and revenue. And it turns out, indeed, it is true that we care about our time and how we spend it more than ever. So customers want businesses to be responsive in a way that they didn't care about as much pre-pandemic.
Yes. And that research project is great, which you have it on your website. So you talk about the state of speed as it is now. So how do consumers feel about businesses' responsiveness now? How is that impacting their revenue? They may not even know it, right?
When you think about the customer experience, right, there are a number of things that go into the customer experience. Customer experience isn't one thing. It is all the things, actually. So there's a number of different dynamics that can make a person like or dislike your business. I would argue, and the data largely backs this up, that today speed and responsiveness is the most important element of customer experience. Now, sometimes business leaders will say, well, Jay, what about personalization? Our customers want everything to feel like it's made just for them, including our content. And that's true, but you will overlook a business getting your name wrong, Amanda, if you get exactly what you want, exactly when you need it. And sometimes business leaders will say, well, Jay, our customers care most about kindness and empathy. And that's also important. I wrote a whole book about it. But today, you will overlook some rudeness to get exactly what you want, exactly when you need it. So today, I would argue that all businesses need to elevate speed and responsiveness on their list of internal priorities because their customers already have. Half of all customers will hire whomever contacts them first, regardless of price. Doesn't matter what it costs. Whoever gets a hold of them first, they buy from them. Why? Because we live in a time where all of us interpret responsiveness as respect.
Yeah, and you make a great point in the book about a painter, I bet everyone has these experiences. We did the same thing with a roofer who didn't call us back. One of them called back 3 days later. One of them never bothered to come back. But the one that we ended up going with was the first one that actually responded to us, regardless of how much it costs.
Yeah, I wish I had a more nuanced business advice for you, but here's one: answer messages. I wish that wasn't a mic drop, but in practice, it actually is, right? And that's what I'm saying. Most businesses think they're fast, right? Mm-hmm. They assume that they're fast enough. I'm telling you, you're not fast enough anymore, because I've been doing this for 30 years. I've never heard a customer say, ever in my life, you know what, next time, why don't you guys do that more slowly? Right? Nobody ever says that, right? So speed expectations continue to escalate. What was fast 5 years ago is slow today, and onward the merry-go-round goes. So if you haven't made a material effort inside your organization to say, how can we be faster and more responsive? You need to do so, because customers are voting with their minutes.
If you're just joining us, I'm talking to Jay Baer about his new book, The Time to Win. And I was asking the question of the day about responsiveness, and is that a priority? And Barbara says here, responding, even if you don't have an answer, is essential. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You're listening and are human and care. Address the question, say you'll get back to them, provide them with the answer they need, or refer them to someone who can help as soon as possible.
Barbara's on it. She's exactly right.
So we're talking about being fast, but I also love how you mentioned you can't be too fast. So explain this idea. You called it the Goldilocks zone, which I love, or the right now.
So when I talk about speed and responsiveness being the number one component of customer experience, a lot of times people say, all right, well, we're just going to do whatever we can in our business to be as fast as possible all the time. And you probably should be faster than you are much of the time, but there are scenarios where you can be too fast. And the one I talk about in the book is I went to a Mexican food restaurant here in Indiana, which is a questionable decision because Indiana, not known as the home of authentic Latino cuisine, but I'm from Arizona originally, so you gotta get your fix where you can get it. So I go to this place down the street, and they brought me chicken enchiladas in 90 seconds. I'm like, can I have chicken enchiladas? Boom. It manifested. And I was initially excited about how quick that was. But very soon that excitement turned to distrust. like, do they have an enchilada machine that I don't know about? Did somebody else order these and then like, no, I want the beef, and they kept them on the hot window and waited for the next sucker to order it, and I was that guy? Do they employ a psychic to know what you're going to order? It was very confusing. And this is something that we've almost all of us have experienced in business as well. I'm sure most people tuning in have used a chatbot at some point. So a company like Drift powers many of the B2B chatbots in the world. They program an intentional 3-second delay into their chatbot. Now, the chatbot itself is AI driven. So the second that you hit submit, it can spit out an answer. But when that happens, when you're like, boo-doo-doo-doo, I need a part number, bang, and it spits it out. Like, wait a second, that was awfully fast. That must have been a robot. I don't necessarily trust this information. They didn't even read my question. So they put in the 3-second delay, and you've all seen it. It's a little ellipsis. It's the animated ... to make you think that the robot is somehow like reading your question and like thinking about it in their robot head. It's fake. But when they have the animated ellipsis ... trust in the response goes through the roof.
Wow.
You what you're looking for is what I call in the book the right now, okay? Which is indeed the Goldilocks zone for responsiveness. It's not too slow, certainly, and it's also not too fast. Like if you called a surgeon, like, hey, I got to get my foot operated on. He's like, cool. What are you doing in 5 minutes? You'd be like, well, weird. You're super available, like maybe too much, right? So you can be too fast. So the right now is the perfect amount of elapsed time. And in every business, what you need to seek is figuring out what is that right now. The way we define it in the book is the right now is just slightly faster than your customers expect. So if they think it's going to take 2 days, you do it in like a day and 3/4, right? That's the magic place you want to be.
So how do they find that right now? And is that different from, say, a like small business versus like a larger enterprise?
No, process is the same. Process is exactly the same. You've got to actually do some analysis. So the first piece of the time, there's a 6-piece framework in the book, Time to Win framework. And the first piece of the framework is to perform what we call a got it audit. Got it audit. Got it audit asks you to figure out how long does it take your customers to get it? All the things that they need from you. How long does it take a customer to get an invoice? How long does it take them to get a salesperson to call them back? How long does it take them to pay an invoice? How long does it take them to get a question answered? And on and on and on. That sounds really obvious, Amanda. But when I ask business leaders that exact question, how long does it take your customers to pay a bill? Here's what I get. Well, Jay, usually it takes 1 day, but if it's over a weekend, of course it could be 3. If Susan in accounts receivable is on vacation, it could be 4. If it comes in by noon the first day, I mean, we might be able to do it by, I'm like, wait a second. Stop talking. That is not math. That is a collection of stories that you tell yourself. You cannot optimize for responsiveness based on anecdote. So the got it audit asks you to actually figure out the numbers. How long does it actually take to pay a bill? This is all knowable. You just have to do the backwards looking analysis to figure it out. So if you're going to optimize around speed and responsiveness, you first have to have a baseline, and the baseline is where you do the got it audit. So yes, it works the same for big companies or small companies. The number of data points you'll have may be different, and the source of information may be different, but the process is the same.
If you're just joining us again, talking to Jay Baer about his new book, The Time to Win. If you have any questions for Jay, feel free to drop them in the comments. Glenn says here, I totally agree with fast response from service businesses. Excuse me, big companies have terrible customer service experiences. Responsiveness is respect for everybody's time, right? They have a lot to do. We all have a lot to do, right?
Look, the thing about time is it is the only resource on this planet that we share equally. It's the only one.
Yeah, that was great that you pointed out. That was like, oh yeah, right.
And
No
so
of
course, the value of that is going to go up and up and up in a world where everybody wants a piece. They want a piece of your time, a piece of your time, a piece of your time, a piece of your time. And when a business wastes your time, it causes a lot of problems. You don't want to buy from them. You certainly don't want to buy from them again. As I say in the book, if you give your customers time, they will give you money. If you cost your customers time, it will cost you money. It's that simple.
And they might even, you talked about that invisible revenue, like they might not even know how much money they're losing.
Well, we talked about the sort of painter or roofer, any kind of competitive bid situation. In my case, I got this house painted, 3 painting bids, as you do. First guy got back to me in like 4 hours, second guy a couple days, third guy like 11 days or something. It had already been painted, like a little slow, man. So the ones I didn't hire, they think they lost on price. That's human nature. We always think we lose on price because it's the easiest story to tell ourselves. We always think it's price. I'm here to tell you it's almost never price, but that's what we tell ourselves. So Painter 2 and Painter 3, who didn't get my business, the next time there's a competitive bid, what do? They drop their price. But they still don't get hired because they're not any faster. They're just cheaper. So they drop their price again. Still don't get hired. Eventually they will get hired because they'll be so much less expensive that even somebody like me is like, you know what? I'm probably going to regret this. This is likely going to be a terrible business relationship. It took them 11 days to respond to my email, but they're so much less expensive. I feel like I got to roll the dice.
Yeah.
But at that point, all of their profit is gone, right? And the scary part about this is that as any business, doesn't matter if you're a painter or an enterprise software company or a car manufacturer or anything in between, there's no report you can run that says lost because we were too slow. There's no bar chart. There's no Google Analytics 4 chart. There's nothing, right? It's invisible when you lose on speed, and that's why it's really dangerous for business.
That's great. And you just mentioned it. You were talking about the book has a 6-piece time to win framework. And we talked about the right now, which is important. But you talk about 2 other interesting concepts, which Barbara sort of brought up there that are easy, but seem to be overlooked, which is the answer before they ask and the respond without answers. Can you kind of elaborate on those? Because I was like, I have literally changed how I respond. I just read this book and I was like, I really have to start responding to even if I don't know, or it's going to take me a few days, because it is really annoying when someone doesn't respond.
Yeah, I love that you're following the advice. I started doing it about 2.5 years ago, and it is had a huge impact on my life. Not just in business, but my relationship with my family and my kids and my friends and the mailman. Like it's really effective. So we'll just pick up on what Barb mentioned in the chat. And thanks, Barb. This idea that typically what happens, okay? If somebody asks you a question and you can't immediately provide whatever it is that they need, what do? Well, generally what you do is you go get whatever is necessary, right? You ask Google, you look it up, you talk to Phil in accounting, or whatever has to happen to conjure the answer. You go do that, and once you've secured that, it could be an hour, it could be a week, then you reply and say, okay, here's your answer. Stop doing that. Don't do that anymore. Because the entire time that you're off, doing whatever it needs to be done to get the information, the person who asked the initial question is slowly freaking out. If I send Amanda an email and I don't hear back for 2 days, here's my internal monologue. I haven't heard back from Amanda. Do I possibly have her email address wrong? Is there a reason that my email to Amanda would go into her spam folder? Did I put an attachment in there that was weird? Is it possible that she's on vacation but didn't set out of office? Is she maybe just mad at me? Should I follow up this email with a text message or a telephone call? Or does that make me seem sad and desperate? this is the talk track that we all go through. And so the best approach is if somebody asks you anything and you don't immediately have the time or information to kind of close the loop, you say, great question, Amanda. So good, in fact, I got to look it up. I'm going to go do that and I'll get back to you. The second that you say, I heard it. This is why in a restaurant, they always say heard, chef, because then the chef knows that you actually heard it. The second you say heard, it changes the psychology dramatically because you take it off of your mental to-do list and you now know it's on my mental to-do list. And that does two things. One, even though you're not any actually faster, it changes how fast they perceive you to be. Mm-hmm. And two, it actually buys you more time to come up with the actual response. Because speed of response is more important than speed of resolution. Because speed of response works on a psychological level. Mm. Speed of resolution requires an actual thing to happen. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So reply without answers. That's the technique.
Yeah, and that's I think that would be huge for a lot of businesses who don't even respond. Like they know they can't do it. They know they don't have the answer, but it's like just give me something so I know that you heard me and we can move on from there. It's amazing how powerful that can be.
It really is. And then the other one we talked about, I think, was to answer before they ask. So the fastest you can possibly be is predictive. Mm. When you give a customer or a prospective customer what they want and need before they can ask for it, that's like a magic trick. I was in Scottsdale doing a presentation not long ago, and I was at the pool, and I was just reading my Kindle, minding my own business. And it was one of those fancy resort places where the conference was, and the pool attendant person saunters up to me, hands me a strawberry daiquiri and says, Mr. Baer, you were putting out strawberry daiquiri vibes. And I'm like, I was putting out strawberry daiquiri vibes. You're amazing, right? That kind of predictive service is a real kind of high bar to clear. You can do this in your own business, and you should. And this has a massive implication for content marketing. If I were to ask you to write down the 25 questions that your customers have most often about your business, you could do it. Everybody could do it. And then I'd say, cool. Of those 25, how many can people get answered without talking to anybody in your organization by any channel, right? Text, chatbot, whatever. Average when I've done this exercise in workshops is 6 out of 25. What about the other 19? You just said that that's a common question, yet we make people work so hard to get those answers. This is very similar to what I talked about in my book, Utility, what Marcus Sheridan talks about in his fine book, They Ask You Answer. We just have to make more information available to customers self-serve. Mm-hmm. And in B2B in particular, half of all millennial buyers in B2B would prefer an entirely seller-free experience. They don't want to talk to any human being under any circumstances. It's just like, show me the information and I'll add to cart, right? So, so many businesses have like an FAQ on their website, and they ain't enough Q's or A's, right? Like, if you got an FAQ that's 8 questions, don't even bother, man. It should be like 25 or 50 or 100. Like, you just have to make it easier to get people the information that they need.
Yeah, it's like you said, like you want the time. So if you can go on the website and get the answer, then and saves a phone call and saves having to deal with somebody. I know I just went something for my son's birthday, and I went on I had all these questions about it, and I had like 5. The FAQ had like 5 things. That was like nothing. I'm like, I'm sure I'm not the only one asking these questions. It was so infuriating. I'm like, I don't want to call them.
It's actually one of the great things that you can use as a kind of integration point between content marketing and customer service, or depending on the size of your organization, kind of voice to the customer, CX teams, is all right, if we're going to have an FAQ or any kind of self-serve info repository, shouldn't that by definition grow over time as we uncover new questions and new use cases? Like, oh, I didn't realize that was a common question. You should as a team come together and say, all right, every quarter we should be adding X number of new questions to this thing. It needs to be an organic, living, expanding resource, not here's 10 questions that we wrote in a conference room during a pizza party 10 years ago, and we still have the same answers.
Pizza party. Love it. Brownland says, time is valuable. 100% agree with this. Well, thank you so much, Jay, for joining us. It is a short book, but there are other great insights in it as well. We can get it theTimeToWin.com, Amazon, all the places.
That's right. TheTimeToWin.com, absolutely. And Amazon, of course, and other places where books are sold. I'll just tell you quickly why it's called The Time to Win. Everything that we're talking about, you're going to do. Every single thing that we're talking about, you're going to do. You're not going to have a choice. Your customers will simply demand it of you eventually. This conversation is going to be stupid in 3 years. It's going to be like, why do we even talk about this? Of course, this is what we're doing. But we're not doing it now. So the reason it's called The Time to Win is that this is the time. This is your opportunity in your business to use speed.
Oh, I think we're losing Jay here.
The reason your competition has yet is it's hard, because it's hard. But if you do it now, if you really lean into it, to speed and responsiveness, it will give you an advantage over your competition for 2 or 3 years until everybody is forced to do it. But you got to get started now. This is your chance. Like, you can literally, I'm not kidding. The data is very clear on this. You will make more money and keep more customers if you get serious about this before your competition does. That's why.
All right. Thank you, Jay. I think we were losing you a little bit at the end there, but thank you so much, Jay. Thank you to everyone out there. Head out and get the book, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, Jay. See ya.